Good evening or morning, whatever. This is YouTube, I suppose. Um, I'm here with Barb, and we're going to talk about the series finale of Better Call Saul, season 6, episode 13. Saul gone. It's done, mate. It's all done, and
Saul gone, man.
yeah, I don't know what we're going to do with ourselves now because that was a fucking great 6 years of television, basically, wasn't it? And oh yeah,
Yeah,
spoiler alert, it was absolutely fucking amazing. But yeah,
it
dude,
was really good. It's very sad though, as you say, because it ran for I think more episodes than even Breaking Bad did. Saul really kind of entered the universe as perhaps like a comedy character, and we're like, oh, there's a lawyer, but like we never would have expected that we got to see his origins and his journey and his transformation into that lawyer. And the way that it ended was really fitting, I think.
they
Um,
did such a good job with that. Because I mean, there's a million and one ways that could have gone. Oh, really? That's how they've done that? Is it? That's how they're gonna?
yeah,
How they're gonna finish this brilliant, brilliant TV show? But no, I don't think that could have gone any better at all.
yeah.
It was perfectly done. And but yeah, not until you just said that there'd actually been more episodes of Better Call Saul than Breaking Bad. Of course, Breaking Bad was 5 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fifth season was broken up into two parts, wasn't it? I think.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, but oh yeah, of course, 6 seasons and what 10, 13 episodes per season. Shit, yeah, simple maths tells me that's more numbers than that.
And that's right, numbers. The numbers don't lie. And also the last two episodes, like the finale was an hour and 40 minutes, and the prior episode was like 80 minutes or something. It was like an extra like half hour or so. It felt like. I'm pretty sure it was longer too.
What
Um,
the finale was an hour and 40.
yeah, with I mean commercials included, it aired for that amount of time. It actually
Gotcha.
may have
Okay.
been less, but um, yeah, I watched it live on AMC on the streaming thing, so there were ad breaks and such. But it was on. It was ran 40 minutes into the second hour,
Oh
of
right. Okay.
broadcasting. So yeah, it was longer. It was sizable, but they covered a lot, um, and it really kind of is just it's a happy. I don't want to say it's a happy ending. I'm happy with the ending that we got. It's not necessarily happy for Saul, but as a viewer, I feel happy at how we saw some of these plot threads, wrap up,
Yeah.
of which there were several.
There was quite a bit to sort of get through there. Of course, the first bit being, of course, you had a flashback to Saul and Mike in the desert, and to a conversation that we didn't see in the original episode where they were there. And this hypothetical time machine, which comes back later on, fittingly so. And but yeah, of course, he's Saul is on. Well, sorry, Gene is on the lam. He's legging it from I want to say Carol Burnett's the actress. I forgot her bloody name.
Yeah,
Marion.
it's Marion.
Marion. Yeah, he's and she's. I hope they get him. And tough old bird. She's still not cowed at all. Is she? Like she was disappointed in him, very disappointed. But
Yeah.
she'll be all right. But yeah, so Gene legging it from the cops, picking up his gear, and how many burner phones did he have in the cupboard? Yeah, quite a few of them. Did.
5 or 6 at least.
There was a few there. They were all in the packaging, and of course, first thing you know about those types of packages, they are notoriously difficult to open. You either need a Stanley knife or a pair of pinking shears or a machete or something to get into the fuckers. And
Yeah, machete ideally.
ideally, yeah, but only if it's really, really, really sharp. And, and yeah, that comes back to bite him in the ass, doesn't it? Just that whole sequence was well, very tense, very dramatic. But of course, this being the Gilliganaverse, packed with humor as well. Just
Yeah.
very, very funny.
Also sort of symbolic in a way too, because he had his like eureka moment in a dumpster outside of the Sandpiper facility, right? When he was looking for shredded documents, which he then found in that dumpster.
Yes.
That was, where he got the phone call from Rich Schweikert and "Blow My Magic Flute." That line happened in a dumpster, and that was like the moment where it kind of like it all started coming together. The case against Sandpiper was formed. Jimmy had that like hustle, go get him sort of mentality, and it got this ball rolling. And then this is where it all also stopped. Was when the cops knocked on the side, and then 4 of them had their guns drawn at him as he stands up with his hands raised. And so that was a bit of some sort of like mirror symbolism in that this is where it started and this is where it ends. Like he was born and died in a dumpster.
The way he comes up like Oscar the Grouch, and then just that whatever the hell it was that dropped down off the lid and onto his shoulder and down some bit of slime. And I'm just glad it was in black and white, so we didn't have to see whatever the hell that was, because it sounded disgusting. It just sounded disgusting.
And it was sad too. Like right before it all went down, like he spilled his little stash of diamonds or whatever it was, and all loose, scattered amongst all the trash and filth. And then he didn't even get to snatch more than a couple of them back up before the police were upon him. So, just like insult to injury, it came crashing down around him so quickly.
I'd have been interested to see if he'd have got hold of the vacuum cleaner guy, whether he could have actually got him out of that situation at all.
I mean, I think we saw how bad it was. Yeah, he probably would have been hung up on, just for even calling him. Was that hot?
I mean, to be fair, I already knew we weren't going to see that guy because, well, he unfortunately died last year, I believe. So it was already common knowledge that we weren't going to see him. Seeing that vacuum cleaner sales repair shop card did make me think of that and took me out of the story just a second. But that's not the storyteller's fault. That's just the way my brain worked in that instant. But so I knew we weren't going to see him. But I didn't think they were going to catch him that quickly, because he was on the run for 5 minutes tops. Screen time wise, and they were like, no, we've got him, he's caught. The drama was to be had elsewhere. It wasn't just going to be
him running
50 minutes of him running, and then
which I'm glad for. Like that was what I wanted to see. I didn't want it to be a prolonged like chase of him dodging the cops. Like they did enough of that with like the helicopter scene and him like looking back and forth, in a paranoid manner. Like that's more or less what it would have been, whether it was 5 minutes or 50 minutes.
Exactly.
So they got to more of the more meaningful part of the story, which is where he is brought to face his consequences, and we see him. So this kind of brings us to the next scene, which is where he is walking down that hallway with he's flanked by guards or prosecutors or whatever it is. He notices Marie Schrader standing in some kind of reception area or something like that, and he's brought to his room and sat down. He's talking to all these prosecutors and special agents that are associated with the federal government, DEA and such stuff like that, right? And they basically start listing, the things that he's responsible for: accessory to the death after the fact of 2 federal agents, and money laundering, blah, blah, blah. Which was what I was like, I was so happy to see that. I was happy to see him faced with the threat of this, like, just really ironclad prosecutorial team. Of like, here's the brunt of what you're facing, and they're tolling up the counts of all the charges and stuff, and it's like 180 or 160 some ridiculous amount, several consecutive life sentences.
It was about 186 years. No, was it about 180 or 190 years or something like that? It was huge. Whatever it was.
It was a huge number.
Yeah.
It was a huge number. He... like that, I was glad to see those, like those consequences and the fallout of like everything that happened in Breaking Bad that we didn't see that story was already told
Yeah.
in Breaking Bad, but like, so it was just neat to kind of pick back up. It felt like two like story threads that were kind of running parallel to one another finally connected, and it's like, here's what's happening to Saul uh, after all the shit hit the fan at the end of Breaking Bad,
Yeah.
and here's how Kim is still involved in everything too, because she was there in the courtroom when all that shit was going down. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves there.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Come on, Barb.
What were your thoughts? So you walk me through how you enjoyed that scene of where he's sort of brought before the prosecutors and facing his consequences.
Had he already called Bill by that point?
I think so. Yeah, I believe
so
he
like,
had.
Yeah, because
He was in the holding cell first, right?
he was in the
that.
holding cell first. He saw the scratched in, really well spelt graffiti.
Yeah.
My lawyer's gonna ream your ass. I think was the phrase, and light bulb moment. And who does he call? Bill Oakley, and Bill Oakley, still the same sort of schmuck he was before, doing a lot better. He's now going into he's paid to defend people rather than just being a public defender. But he literally drops his files when he hears Jimmy's voice, Saul's voice.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck, I'm talking to a ghost. I'm talking to it. But someone who used to be his friend, who used to be his colleague.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Bill sort of just sort of sat there while they're listing off these things. And he's like, yeah, how the hell are you going to defend this? You can't. But Saul is indignant. No, I'm going to come out on top. That's where I see this. I'm gonna beat this. I'm gonna totally win. And then he convinces them to bring in Marie, played by Betsy Brandt, obviously, and she was brilliant. She was great in this scene. She was so good, and played the widow exceptionally well, because she was a funny character in Breaking Bad. Never that serious up until the last sort of season when shit started hitting the fan. But to actually have her, like, she is a grieving widow. Her husband was murdered in a horrific fashion, buried in the desert. So yeah, she wants justice. She wants revenge. And then he, you've got this crack team of lawyers in front of him telling him what he's in for, and he lays out how he met Walter and Jesse, and how he was in fear for his life. And he said, "You think jurors are going to buy that? I only need one." And you can see the mask slip. Back comes Saul, and that lead juror. I mean, you've never lost a case, have you? Never lost a case. You're going to lose this one, sort of thing. And you could see that geezer, the ego. He knows where to push people, doesn't he, Saul? He knows exactly where to push people. And it was like, shit. Please don't tell me he's going to get away with this, because it was all looking pretty good. It's all looking pretty good.
I mean, I feel like he kind of slipped back into Saul when he was like, I'm going to beat this thing. When he said he's going to go in there and make the lawyers kind of... He implied he was going to make them bend to his will. I was like, okay, this is Saul now. He's not. He's definitely not Gene anymore. Like, this was after he had his breakdown or whatever, looking at the graffiti in the cell. So, like, maybe that was the moment that kind of just awakened it in him when he called Bill Oakley and was just so confident that, it was going to work in his favor.
He's a cucaracha. He survives. He always survives. Nuclear fallout, he'll still be there.
Not just survive, but like do really well in a situation. Like, this is where, this is where the legal case that matters the most this far in his life, that determines how he's going to spend the next several years of his life, and he gets it down to, I think, with providing the testimony and stuff that he provides, he was able to finagle them down to just 7 years.
Seven and a
Am I
half.
right?
7.5 years. Yeah.
7.5 years at the prison of his choosing.
The same
with
one Birdie
17
Madoff went to.
Yeah, the 17 previous demands have been already met and agreed to as well, and then he's asking for, mint chocolate chip ice cream every week as well as his 19th.
Yeah,
and
they
final
didn't.
demand.
No, the 20th. That was the 20th one. The 19th was
20th.
the location, and the 20th was this pint of ice cream every week, which
Gotcha.
they didn't agree to. They said no to that ice cream. They said no,
Right.
and that's because he predicated that on Howard Hamlin.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to give you the goods on this, but they knew that because of course Kim had already spilled,
Yeah.
let it
Provided her
affidavit,
affidavit.
yeah. So yeah, and I thought, shit, is he? And that was it. It sort of led into the next bit. Is he actually going to burn Kim? Because that's
and
what it looked like he was going to do.
They surprised him with that information that Kim had come forward with that testimony. When they last spoke, he was like, "Why don't you come clean? Why don't you, get your
Put on that hair
conscience
shirt.
free of guilt?" Yeah,
Put on that hair shirt. See how that fits.
and she did it. She did it, and he didn't. He was still like surprised or taken aback by that in that moment. So yeah, that was sort of something that made you feel like, okay, how is this wrinkle kind of going to play into the way that this whole situation is developing, right?
Well,
So-
right then and there, again, he'd won. He got the agreement, just had to go for because the whole point of it was, Matey didn't want to go to trial and risk his perfect record. They had him bang the rights on everything. But it did mean that he got him down to a trivial amount of time, which certainly wouldn't have been, well, fair. I mean, 7 years in a federal holiday camp with a golf program. A prison with a fucking golf program. You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
Like you said, if it's good enough for Birdie Madoff, it's good enough for me. And, fair. I mean, I think that's where I want to go to prison as well. In fact, I'd be okay with going there now. I'm kind of tired with the cost of living crisis. It's not great. It's a bit
Just
shit.
check in for a little vacation for a while.
Yeah, just like, keep my house on ice for a minute, and I'll come back when the going's good. But,
Absolutely.
yeah. No, it was great on the plane as well when he's bothering Bill as he's going to the toilet. Bill's just like, I really need a piss.
Yeah. And the fact that he got the federal marshal, he was like, "Hey man, anything I say to my lawyer in front of you is like, can be used for whatever." So he, I think, said that in an effort to allow the guard to, facilitate this conversation between them, knowing that he would keep whatever, he needed to out of the conversation.
And knowing it would get back to Kim.
Yeah.
Again, he buttons, he knows what buttons to press. And he knew that geezer. I mean, he gave it to him on a silver platter. Anything I say in front of you to my lawyer is not privileged. You can go in, straight away. Out comes the notebook, click, click. And he writes down what he heard in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold,
it felt like we were seeing, him be Saul at so many. He was like scheming. It felt like constantly through most of the challenges that came his way. Like once he had that moment at the holding cell, like you could see that he had this plan and he knew how he wanted to work through the reality of like getting through this legal situation. And the Kim thing threw him for a loop. And it wasn't until... At what moment do you think he decided that he knew what he was going to do as far as the testimony that, or everything that occurred in the courtroom in front of the judge?
I don't know when it occurred I think it must have occurred to him on the plane. I think he was sort of juggling options while he was on the plane, getting that further information from Bill about Kim being opened up to a civil lawsuit. I think that was when he made the decision, can't have her lose everything, for whatever it is, she never did him wrong at all. She didn't, they just went their separate ways after Howard was murdered. Simple as that. They got divorced and everything, and clearly he was hurting. We could tell that from the last episode when, Sweet Cheeks, send him in, Sweet Cheeks, or whatever. He was being basically an ass when Kim came to get the divorce papers signed. He was hurting, but he wasn't angry at her. He was hurt and upset, which is natural. Well, break up from a relationship, it hurts. It's never a nice thing. It's never once been a nice thing.
Yeah, he didn't want to hurt her
No.
or set her back in any way.
But then, given that this is now Saul Goodman going on Gene Takovic type thing, we were almost able to believe that he would do anything to save his own skin, up to and including throwing Kim under the bus in a further way. So, but obviously we know he didn't do that. But yeah, I think he came up with that plan. Fuck's sake, am I really going to say this on the fly when he was in the plane? I'm so sorry, but
you've done worse.
I've done worse. I mean, if he'd been riding a horse, I could have said on the hoof, but but yeah, he came up with it there and then when they were in the plane, because when he walked into the courtroom, I know it was in black and white, but full fucking well that suit he was wearing was pure gold. You could tell
or
with
something.
It was
something obnoxious, shark skin or something.
Something like that. It was very reflective, and it looked to me like it was a gold suit and a really loud, obnoxious shirt and tie. And it was just like he's going in there looking like he wants to upset the entire place, make everybody really pissed off and angry at him. And the judge made it quite clear as well. What I have in front of me is the most lenient set of sentencing guidelines I've ever seen in my 22 years here. Anything you say will imperil that. It cannot get better for you by saying anything. And he still wanted to say
he was
something.
he was I still want to talk. He was definitely still Saul Goodman at that point too, and the suit was like a tell that's the mode that he was in.
Yeah, yeah. But again, it was all if he wanted to get those 7.5 years, he'd have gone in, muted suit, shirt and tie, but looking as respectable as possible. And but he went in with the clear mindset he was going to get everybody riled up and angry at him, as it were, and to I don't know, see that justice was served essentially properly. And he did do that. And he did do that. And it was great seeing Bill saying he doesn't know what he's saying. He needs to sit down. And the prosecutor, we are happy for him to continue. Please continue. Keep going. It was really, really good. It was brilliant. And the comment as well, I think I know the law better than you do. To the judge. You don't say that to a judge. That is asking to be kicked up the ass. That really is. He
did say that to the judge. He started out his testimony by saying the same thing he said in the room with Maria Schrader, who was still also present in the courtroom at this time.
Yeah, with Gomi's wife as well there, Blanca.
Yeah. He started off by saying, I was introduced to them by being taken out into the desert and kneeled in front of a grave. But then he was like, I did everything I could to aid and help him establish his empire and see to his troubles and blah, blah, blah. I'm culpable of a lot of stuff. So he fully admitted and acknowledged his extent of everything he did as far as, his dealings during Breaking Bad. He also admitted to the fact that it's because of his actions that drove his brother to suicide, and he intentionally sabotaged his liability insurance and tried to hurt him and go after the thing that meant the most to him, which was practicing the law. And he acknowledged that it drove his brother to suicide. And then he also in some strange twist, sort of admitted that everything that occurred with Howard Hamlin was his idea. Or I might need a little bit of clarification here as well, because this was all sort of happening so fast. But I think it was just that he said he lied when he said that stuff earlier, because it just wanted to get Kim here into the courtroom.
Yeah.
So that she could hear him, say the truth, which was that he was the one who was like responsible for it, and wanted to make sure that she didn't get burdened with any of that participation. But I don't know that she should have escaped all responsibility for that, because she did, push the gas on that plan that led Howard to his fate to some extent. So, we could discuss how much does she deserve to get off for what happened. But that was, all the same, it was what Saul decided to do in that moment. And he was also addressed by the judge, I think, as Saul Goodman. He said no. He said it's
Jimmy McGill.
Jimmy. It's Jimmy McGill. And so he returned to being Jimmy, or tried to at least return to who he was before, by owning up to not only what he was on trial for, but for things that he felt he was sort of carrying around with him that he never actually addressed until that moment. Like, that's a reminder that all that pain and failing to cope with those traumatic things that happened to him are like kind of what led into him being that Saul Goodman persona. And when you address that trauma and speak the truth and feel set free from it, you no longer have to hide. So he was able to return to Jimmy. He wasn't able to before.
Yeah. Yeah, he'd certainly stopped being Jimmy when Kim left, because when Kim left, Jimmy was still there. Saul was just who he was for work, as it were.
Yeah.
And the admission that he'd actually caused Chuck's death was pretty huge character-wise, I'd say, because it was kind of hinted at by Howard when Howard said, I think Chuck committed suicide. I think he did this on purpose.
Because of me, yeah.
Yeah, sort of thing. And Kim reamed him out for it, didn't she? She really had a go at Howard for that. Why would you say that to him, that he died in the most painful way possible, the way that you're basically sat there now with fire raging around you? You seem fine with it. I feel weird about this, man. You seem fine with flames all around you at the moment. But I mean, it's
very unlike Chuck McGill.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're gonna die, then burning to death whilst conscious, not even under the influence or whatever. That's a painful, horrific way to die. And Howard had said, that that's how Chuck had committed suicide, and wow, put that sort of those thoughts into Jimmy / Saul's head, and yeah, and like you say, he'd never addressed it since, and until that courtroom, and yeah, that must have been huge, because Chuck was his big brother. It was his hero, well, up to a point, of course, the earlier seasons and things. So yeah, it was yeah, he needed to say it, didn't he? He needed to shed that baggage.
Yeah. Oh, I think we skipped a flashback scene too. I think before all this stuff happened, there was a flashback between Saul and Walter White when they were in the basement.
The time machine again, yes.
Yeah, this was during their stay at the Disappearers basement.
Yeah.
While they were waiting to get situated in their new lives. And Jimmy proposes that question of, if you had a time machine, where would you go? And Walt's just his classic, dismissive,
so
just
angry
a prick.
Yeah.
Just a prick who's first of all, the shit you're talking about is impossible. It's not, we're gonna talk about quantum physics with you, Saul. Stay in your lane. And he's like, why don't you just talk about what this really is, which is regret?
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, you're right. That's what it is about. And he opens up a little bit about gray matter and Gretchen and Elliot, and how he feels that they pushed him out or whatever. And Walt asks him, "What's your biggest regret?" And Saul just says that one time he took a slip and fall that was just too hard or too real, and it
Hurt my
fucked up his knee. Yeah, it hurt his knee, and he just wishes that it's like it's never been the same. And then Walt's like, "You've always been like this, haven't you?" Like, just so succinctly kind of like assesses Saul in that moment, and is like, "You're
not like
this
going
is
back.
just who you are."
I could have saved me brother. I could have saved Howard. I could have saved my marriage with Kim, or all these other things that we've seen happen, that we know have happened to him.
Yeah.
Prior to him becoming Saul Goodman and then being in that basement with Walter White before getting disappeared to Nebraska. And hurt me knee. Cool, never been the same. Oh, it was great. It was such a good fall as well. He was really proud of the fact that he really solved the fall, but at the cost of his knee, really ruined his playing career.
It just showed that even after everything that he had endured in Breaking Bad, he still had like no desire to
absolutely
like
none.
Just he was like really kind of, I guess, at peace with everything, or
yeah. He didn't want redemption. He just wanted to keep getting away with things and also to keep his money. That's all he wanted.
Yeah.
That was
what it was about.
Yeah,
the money.
Yeah, different sex worker every night, a bathroom full of Viagra, and and a golden toilet. You know, who hasn't wanted a golden toilet? I thought I used a golden toilet once. I was around a mate's place. I didn't realise you had a golden toilet. He went, "I haven't." I said, "Oh." Well, in that case, I've just pissed in your tuba. That didn't happen. It's just a joke, okay?
I'm sure it is. That's amazing.
Got to slip one in. But
so back to the is it the courtroom that we're in now, or is it like after he comes clean to everything? Obviously, there's like voices of the lawyers kind of like overlaying each other as they're like objecting and asking for recess and saying, blah blah blah, the testimony was this. And
as far as he's concerned, his work is done. The lawyers, his co-counsel and the prosecution are arguing it out. The judge is probably getting really impatient with him, and it gives him time to turn around and see what Kim makes of his whole confession, essentially. And they sort of reconnect in that moment, and
I think
that was nice.
She has some relief, I think, on her face.
Well, you could see it when before he's walking in, she sat at the back, and of course the trademark tapping of the heel on the floor. She's nervous,
anxious,
very, yeah. And so that was and I don't think we got another shot of Marie and Mrs. Gomez, but they must have been somewhat relieved. That must have brought some closure to them. I mean, of course, they're never going to get their husbands back, and massive tragedy in that respect. But they must have been thinking, well, good, he's not just going to get 7.5 years in a federal holiday resort.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, the prison that he did mention, ADX Montrose, went there once. Yeah. Oof, don't want to go there again. That's where he's headed. I mean, he's headed there for a reason, because it reminded me of you ever seen The Wire? You must have seen The Wire. You're a cool guy.
It was on my list to watch. I'm afraid I'm not as cool as you think I am.
Well, there is a bit in The Wire where they say, "Tell me where you want to go. What you want to, to Jimmy McNulty, who is one of the main characters, shall we say. He's a bit naughty. He's a really good copper in some ways, like a brilliant copper, but a fucking idiot as well.
Yeah.
But well, tell me where you don't want to go, and we'll make sure you land all right, that you don't go there." And it reminded me of that, because where did Jimmy not want to go? Where he got sent. So, and
ADX Montrose.
that also happened with Mr. McGill. So yeah, it was when you saw the sign, I saw the sign. There was like, yeah, The Wire, and like, of course.
Yeah.
You know, why wouldn't one of the best TV shows in history reference the greatest TV show in history? So yeah,
But there was another flashback to an interaction between Jimmy and Chuck when Chuck
yeah,
was alive. They
yeah,
brought him back for a scene here,
season one,
which must
basically.
have been must have been from season 1.
Early
right?
season one as well. Early season one, where Jimmy's doing the errands for him every day, getting the ice and grounding himself before coming in, and all that sort of malarkey. I've got you your favourite apples. But
And the point of this interaction, if I'm not mistaken, Chuck, I mean, there's a little bit of banter, right? But then Chuck ultimately said, you can talk to me about some of this stuff, if you want to, these clients that you're going to be helping. And Jimmy was like, just kind of brushed it off, right? He was like, why would I talk to you about the guy who was, got a parking ticket or something to that effect, right? He
someone
was
that
like,
waved, took a piss outside of a shop, or was waving his weenie outside of a Hobby Lobby, or
Yeah.
a grandma that was pulled in for solicitation, solicitation,
or that.
yeah, basically being a whore.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't want to hear about that. You just want to tell what I'm doing wrong.
Right.
And the bit where he's, we always have this same conversation.
It seemed like maybe Chuck was like trying to kind of get through to him in a way, but Jimmy was the one who was like, I know how things are, Chuck.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just like that he had his own kind of like wall up or whatever, or his own like perception of his brother.
And again,
yeah.
the trying to convince Jimmy not to become a lawyer, essentially. If you're going down a path you don't like, with the crappy clients and everything you can always change it. Basically, stop being a lawyer, go do something else.
Yeah.
And, of course, Jimmy's not having that. He wants to be a lawyer. He's worked hard to get there. Getting that degree from the University of Samoa can't have been easy.
Right.
You got to start an account online.
I mean, he did it while he was working in the mailroom too. He did it like nights, through correspondence, as Chuck referred to it, a correspondence school, an online course.
That's where that chimp got his machine gun from.
What a sick joke!
What a sick joke!
And
not Jimmy.
Yeah. It was just sad to kind of see that relationship again. Like, it was neat to see them together again, but it was also just sad because it was like, it was such a dysfunctional relationship between the two of them, and like, just, it felt like these things were kind of like set in motion so long ago.
Well, it's a story as old as time, isn't it? It's sort of Cain and Abel. Brothers fight. They always have done, and this is just another very well done example, I might add, but just another example of brothers fighting and, loving each other very, very much. But my God, they butt heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're just seeing how it all plays out, like the consequences of everything that they did to each other and the people who were hurt along the way. Like, it's just sad. It's sad that that's the story of how their lives went, and the people who were affected by them were like affected negatively, or lost their lives, or suffered like reputation damage, and whatever it may be. Like, you're lucky if that's all you got from your interactions with Slippin' Jimmy and Slippin' Kimmy.
Yeah. Nobody who came into contact with those two came out of it very well when they were a pair, shall we say. Yeah,
for sure. But back to that sign of ADX Montrose, and then we're on the prison bus, right? And we see a prison bus full of tough looking dudes, and then there's Saul sitting at the back of the bus. Are we calling him Jimmy now because he confessed to everything and he's
Yeah,
now
he
redeemed?
he,
So
he is Jimmy, but nobody's going to let him forget he's Saul, are they? They're going to call him Saul to the end of day, end of time,
and that's
essentially.
exactly what they do because he introduces himself. They said you're Saul or whatever.
Better
He
Call
was like
Saul.
he's like no, McGill, James McGill. And then
No,
soon
you're
enough, the whole
Saul.
bus, yeah, the whole bus catches on. They're like, "You're Saul," and it's like, "Saul, clap, Goodman, clap." Like they got this whole,
Better Call
yeah,
Saul.
yeah, they got the
Better.
whole stomps going and everything, and everyone on the bus is going crazy for him. The guards are like not having it. They're freaking out, but clearly everyone on the bus like recognizes him and either feels some sort of way about it. Interesting that you say they'll never let him forget it, right? Like he tried to correct people in the courtroom. He was like, "No, it's
Yeah.
Jimmy McGill now. It's not Saul Goodman." Prisoners are going to call him and remind him of who he is, at least to them,
Yeah.
which is Saul Goodman. So he'll never be able to kind of not be that person now that he's built his whole life
Imagine as
on.
well the whole thing. Going to prison is a scary prospect. No matter who you are,
Sure.
it's not. I mean, there's a reason for that. You're losing your liberty for a very good reason. You've broken the social contract or social contracts. Yeah. You could stack the laws in the books, and they would reach up quite much taller than this house. And I've got a tall house. I'm a very well off man, but I wish I was. And but yeah, so you go into prison for a reason, and you go into a nasty prison for a good reason as well. Usually because you got to be kept away from the general population because you are a bad guy. You are doing harm.
Yeah.
Which means that everybody else in that place is probably a bit of a nasty pasty. They're not people you want to be around. But
Yeah.
normally anybody in the judicial system or whatever that would go to prison, you send a copper to jail. It's basically a death sentence, isn't it? Lawyer can't. People aren't going to think too highly of them. But this is Saul Goodman. He was a criminal lawyer, and he was very much on the side of criminals. So if it's one person that can survive in prison, well, he's the cucaracha. He can survive anything.
Yeah.
It's going to be Saul Goodman.
It's probably Saul, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be on his side because if they got something coming up, they're like, I've got this hearing coming up. You can probably give me better advice than my actual lawyer I've been assigned.
Yeah, and yeah, for sure. Like I feel like we actually kind of see that in the shot of a mixer with a dough kneading arm going into a bowl of dough,
That
right? We see that and we
confused me.
think we're like back at Cinnabon for
Yeah,
a second,
same,
but then
same.
nope, it's a prison kitchen,
Yeah.
and
He's baking
he's just
bread.
making some bread.
Yeah.
But as he's moving through the kitchen, right, he's like got some sort of chummy interactions with the other prisoners. He's like, "Hey,
I
how you
got you,
doing?"
Saul.
And yeah, like it's clearly he's got some friends. He's making some friends while he's in there. Even though it's a place where he doesn't really want to be. But
Yeah.
this visit that he gets called for that pull him out of the kitchens and out of the bakery is a guard telling him that his lawyer is here to see him.
Stop it. I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry,
when he goes into this room where he thinks his lawyer is, he sees it's Kim standing there before him.
Well, that's the thing. At this point, he hasn't got a lawyer anyway because, Bill was only co-counsel. Why the hell would Bill be coming to see him? Bill Oakley.
Right.
And he represented himself. He doesn't need a lawyer. He is a lawyer. Maybe can't practice, but of course, you do have the right. In the UK, you do, and I know you do in America as well, to represent yourself. Even what's that old maxim? He who has himself. Oh, what the fuck is the saying?
I don't know. You lost me with this one.
A fool for a client. Anyone who represents himself in court has a fool for a client.
Oh, okay. I think I have.
I think that's the. I mean, Google is a thing. Go look it up.
Sure.
But But yeah, so yeah, he's like, well, who the hell is that going to be? And of course, it's Kim. And the way the shot is framed, it's obviously purposely done to replicate when they're meeting for a smoke and him kicking the shit out of the trash can in the very first episode when after a meeting gone bad with Howard trying to get more money for Chuck. And it's framed perfectly, you know, because they do indeed. They light up a cigarette, they share that cigarette, and so good to see Kim looking good again. You know, out of those fucking jean shorts, jean skirt, and those crappy trainers, and yeah,
She's dressed up like a pretend lawyer.
well, she's dressed like Kim Wexler again, not this mousy, dowdy, meek woman that she turned into in Florida, and we could see the turning of that as well. Actually, we missed one of the bits when Kim goes to a legal aid firm and goes to volunteer, and then is instantly answering the phone, Florida Legal Aid, or whatever the hell she says, doing filing, knows exactly what to do, just slips straight back into it. It's like, and again, it's a hope. I mean, yeah, we're jumping back a bit here, but it's a hope spot for her. It's like, yeah, everything has been shit. She's been working in a really unsatisfying job for her, and you know, sat there having inane conversations at lunch with you know, her co-workers, where, and again, because she's turned into this mousy, dowdy, meek person, offering zero opinions, looking to avoid any sort of confrontation. And yet here she is, a legal aid firm, and it's like, that's the hope spot until the phone call. Yeah, Jimmy's Saul is throwing you under the bus. I really shouldn't be calling you, and which led her to the courtroom. So yeah, it's like I say, it's really good to see her back, as it were.
Yeah, and she says that he talked himself from 7 years to 100 and back up to the whatever sentence it was, the maximum.
She 86 years, I think he got eventually.
Oh, maybe it was.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, everything else was taken into consideration and things. So, you know, he managed to get 100 years knocked off his sentence.
Yeah.
So, you know, oh, what a great line as well. You know, I was 86 years now, so, you know, with good behaviour. Fucking brilliant. And yeah, it was good. And that whole bit where she's walking out and being let out by the guard, and he's stood just watching her until she's actually out of sight. And of course the finger guns, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm man enough to admit I shed a little tear. I shed a little tear. It was a good ending. It was a really good ending. I won't say it was a nice ending, but it was a good ending.
Right.
And I felt it was much more impactful. It made much more sense than the end of Breaking Bad.
Yeah, well, it was a very different story from Breaking Bad. It was never set up to be like a big bang and you know, flashes and gunfire and stuff like that, right? Like the point of what Saul was going through, I think, was just this pattern of like behavior, you know, and then evading the consequences of his actions for so long that it just shows you can't really like outrun it, you know, especially if you're a certain type of person, and Saul was that type of person. So there was really no other way for it to end than for him to have to be forced to face the music.
Yeah.
For everything that he had done. So it really was the best ending for him, I think, and for the story. I can't imagine, like, what did people really want to see Saul get away with it, like, and
some people
like
would
live out the rest. I guess. I mean, I don't think that would be satisfying though, because of everything that's been put up at stake and everything that he's been through, and you know how his relationship with Kim and how his brother was affected and stuff. You know, like it was always set up to be of something of examining like consequences of choices that you make, and Saul made a lot of bad choices.
Well, all three
throughout.
choices. You used the word choice, and it just reminded me again right at the start of the episode. Mike and Jimmy, because he watched Jimmy then. Mike and Jimmy talk about this time machine, and of course, Mike, where would you go to? And he says a day, and the day he says, I believe would have been the day that Matty died, that Matty was killed. So his first thought was go back, save Matty, and then it was like no. Then he went even further back, another like 10, 20 years prior to that, whatever that date was. I don't have numbers in front of me. The day he took his first bribe, which would also save Matty, but would also save him. Wouldn't, Mike was fond of using the term bad choice road. Once you're on that bad choice road, that's it. That's the path you travel. You go down that path. You don't get redemption. Redemption's not an option once you're on that. Sorry, Bruce. Once you're on that road, that's it. And so bad choice road. And for Saul, it was for Jimmy, it was invest in Birdie Madoff from the start, and come back a billionaire.
Yeah.
But going back to the ending, you look at the three endings we've had. You've got the Breaking Bad ending, which is Walter White's ending, if you will. It had been set up to be a showdown between him, the neo-Nazis, Gretchen and Elliot, Skylar, and the authorities. And it ended with Walt dying, but he was going to die anyway, but massively on his own terms. He got the money to Skylar and Walt Jr. and the baby. I forget the baby's name. Not a big character, but Jessica, Holly. Thank you, Holly. And so Walt won. He beat the neo-Nazis. The police never took him down, and he liberated Jesse. And although I still love that theory that Breaking Bad actually ended when he was in the car and the screen faded to black when he couldn't find the key, and then it lit back up and he found the key. That's actually his dream as he's dying. I like that theory. Whether it's true or not, obviously it's not, because canon is Walter White died here, these neo-Nazis died, and everything else. However,
that'd be a bummer.
Yeah, but before we had El Camino, that was a really nice theory that you could live on. Then we have El Camino, which is Jesse essentially escaping to Alaska. He's got his own sort of life there. And again, it's another redemption story. You got Walter White he redeems himself at the end of Breaking Bad, at the end of El Camino. Jesse's basically redeemed himself. He's going off to have his new life in Alaska. Who's to say it won't be, happy? He's got enough money that he can, live on that. I know money doesn't buy happiness, but then you only have to rent it until the end of your life, don't you?
Yeah.
That's what we look at it. And Jimmy got redemption by confessing to all his sins, getting closure for Marie Schrader and Mrs. Gomez. I think it's Blanca, isn't it? Blanca.
Blanca.
I'm so bad with names. And getting Kim to make sure she's okay, by not throwing her under the bus. And so you got three slightly different redemption stories there. But I did like the way as well Saul Jimmy, he's stuck it to Walt. He couldn't have done this without me. Walt was an egomaniac, and he was convinced he was, King Dick of Shit Mountain. And he managed to sort of stick one to Walt, posthumously, by saying he couldn't have done it without me. He'd have been dead within a week or a month after walking in my office if I hadn't helped him. And I like that. I do like that.
Very powerful statement, for sure.
Huge.
Shows that he acknowledges how instrumental he was in allowing, just all of that to continue.
Facilitating the whole thing.
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
Damn near all of it.
But Walt wouldn't have liked that. He
No,
would not.
no, he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have. But I really do like how that ending scene, as you say, was just like that slow, like tracing shot that just literally ended when like a wall like came into the frame. Like they were really just looking at each other like that until uh, something came between them, like
Yeah,
physically.
physically,
And then it just cut right to
shredded.
Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould, and now it's over.
Yeah, I've watched it twice today,
Have
and
you? I
yeah,
haven't rewatched it yet. I've only watched it the once
yeah, I've watched it
last
twice. The
night.
first time I watched it was like, right, my phone's turned off. There was no second screen. There's just me and the TV.
Hmm.
I made sure to take Bruce out for a W word. Yeah, dog owners will know that you can't say the W word out loud, no matter what time of day or night, even if they're tired or not. To make sure he was good and tired and was on my lap, asleep, snoring, so that there would be zero interruptions. And I just turned my brain off, watched the entire thing, and reveled in it. And then I had to watch it again to like, right, okay, let me try and understand each bit as we're going through.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, second watch, Niagara Falls, baby, as they say in Scrooged. Same.
I'll
Fucking
probably
powerful
I'll
as
probably
hell, man.
feel more emotional when I watch it the second time, and also more receptive to like things that I missed the first time. Like sometimes there's just connections and stuff that you kind of overlook because you're taking everything in.
Yeah. And of
But yeah,
course,
I'll probably.
I mean, this is when we did last week's on the penultimate episode. It was like 2 or 3 days after the episode. This one
Mhm.
is on the day because we
Yes.
we really just we wanted to get something on wax as quickly as we could, didn't we? And just well, try and beat the algorithm, I suppose, is one way to look at it. Maybe get us up to 100 views
Yeah, maybe. Here's hoping.
one day, baby. We're gonna get that little bit of silver in the back with that little arrow on it.
50 subscribers. Good
Woo!
job.
There we go. Get the Barb pump going, which is an emote you can get in chat on Twitch on twitch.tv/barbecue. Link down
That's right.
below.
Wow. Thanks. I feel like I'm sponsoring the stream and I or the video and I'm not as far as
Oh,
I'm
you've
aware.
not read the contract. Yeah. By the way,
Oh
we'll talk.
fuck.
We'll talk after. We'll get
Oh
estimates.
yeah.
Get estimates.
Okay. I'll get my agent. Call my lawyer.
Better Call Saul. But yeah, I mean, what a
Saul gone.
fucking great
Saul
show.
gone.
Saul gone.
Yeah.
Great
It's
ending.
it was a really awesome ride and yeah, I'm really happy with how it ended. I'm excited that we got to see it. Everything that led up to Saul being a character and the stuff that kind of happened tangentially to Breaking Bad and the effects of all the fallout and stuff after. It was everything I wanted to see, and I'm just glad that it's out, and it's been awesome looking forward to it, every week for
Yeah.
however long it's been in between seasons and stuff. It's been something I've been looking forward to whenever they're airing the episodes, like over the past 6 years. So I'm gonna miss it, and I'll have to find some new programming to care more about than I probably reasonably should. Um,
The Wire.
and it's out there. Yeah, The Wire. It's on the list. It's on the list.
I know it's
The
a
Wire
very
and
old show
Fargo.
now. Oh, mate, Fargo.
Yeah.
Oh, Fargo's so good.
I also started Ozark, but like I
I've
got
fallen off. I've fallen off
six.
Ozark as well. Yeah.
I've fallen off. It's all right, I guess, but I'm not like, oh, dude, I gotta keep watching it. I feel like if I was
Same.
gonna feel
Yeah.
like that, I
Yeah.
would feel like that by now. So
I think I've watched like 2, 3 seasons, and just yeah, I've not been motivated to go back to it. Not to say it's a bad show. I really enjoyed it. It's very clever, very well written and acted, and some good shit in there. But yeah, it's not grabbed me the same way that Better Call Saul has, that Breaking Bad did, and The Wire. I couldn't have binge watched that more. Deadwood was another one I couldn't watch. Now, Deadwood, did they have 2 or 3 seasons? Did they have 2 or did they have 3 seasons?
I'm not sure.
Whichever the last season was, it took me a good 3-4 years to watch it after I'd watched the previous one, because I knew it was the last season. I knew they hadn't made any more and it had been cancelled. So I couldn't bring myself to watch it because I enjoyed it that much. I didn't want it to be ruined by, like, is there a cliffhanger? I do not want to be fucking, stuck out here on the ledge without any sort of, like, closure, which is one of the great things about Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. We've had all the episodes we're going to get.
Yeah.
But on the writer's terms, they finished it. Mm-hmm. Even back in the day, Buffy and Angel, Joss Whedon, whatever you may think of him, but back then he was, all right. He finished them. Those were all done. You got those. You got the full story, as it were.
Right.
The Wire, you got the full story there as well. But like Firefly, you didn't get a second season of that, did you?
Yeah, there's a couple. There's more than a couple of shows like that just got canceled before.
Sans Clarita
they
Diet.
should have.
Yeah. Fuck you, Netflix. Come on. Don't just do 2 seasons of a really good show and go, oh yeah.
Well, come on, Gordy. We're trying to get picked up by Netflix. We can't be talking shit. We're gonna send them this link and say, like, here's a pilot. We have a pilot for you.
Treat them mean, keep them keen, son. Treat them mean, keep them keen. It's the con artist thing of negging. It's never going to go out of fashion.
We gotta slap these billion-dollar corporations around a little bit. Show them who's boss.
What do they think they're messing with?
That's right.
Yeah. Me sat in my underpants when no one can see. Well, they've got volcanic layers and things that they do all their planning from.
Private water supplies and stuff.
And armies.
And armies.
Probably armies.
Their own water supplies and their own armies. These fucking bastards. This corporate helipads and shit for their helicopters. It's crazy.
Wouldn't want one.
We should be trying to come up with some ideas for future things to talk about on a podcast, because this could be something we continue even now that Better Call Saul is over. So
quite agree.
Rule out just some chat sessions like this. Maybe even about Hitman stuff.
Well, I was just about to say we could get that skinny dude. What's he called? Buff guy. Lovely ironic name. That would be funny.
Yeah,
get him here talking about Hitman and things, and maybe 420 as well. And I can see we should definitely do more convos without a doubt.
Yeah, I'd like that. Maybe talking about each level of the trilogy or something. But yeah, we'll stay tuned for that announcement, everybody. Make sure you follow Gordy on Twitter, because that's where he posts updates about important things and also has meltdowns too. So that's good content. That's
true. I'm afraid that is true. Yes. Someone called me a British Karen the other day, and I was like, yeah, motherfucker. And I had no reply.
See, go follow him. I'm telling you, go follow him. The content's good. You won't regret it.
Well, Barb, thank you for what we've done so far and what we're probably going to do in the future, and for help me talk through this finale of a fantastic show. And it's 20 past midnight here for me, and I've got to be up in the morning for work. So I better get my ass to bed.
Yeah, you better. But man, thanks for having me. It's been fun, and it's been cool learning like how to do this and sort of talking and stuff. And I hope we can continue to do it more about other cool things.
Damn right we will. All right.
Damn right.
Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you all very soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.